Hollywood turned many actors into experts through cameras, editing, and stunt doubles. But while that was happening, real combat monsters were being ignored. Genuine martial artists with world titles, black belts, and championships that most people never even knew existed. These are the most underrated fighters in Hollywood history. Let's begin. Number 10. Scott Adkins. If there is one name on this list that should be a top-tier Hollywood superstar and isn't, it's Scott Adkins. Trained in judo, taekwondo, kickboxing, ninjutsu, karate, Krav Maga, and Brazilian jiu-jitsu. Among many other disciplines, Scott Adkins is considered by action film experts to be one of the most complete martial artists ever to step onto a movie screen. His legs are weapons that very few performers in action cinema history have been able to match. Yet most of his career unfolded in direct-to-DVD productions. His character, Yuri Boyka, in the Undisputed film series is legendary among fans of the genre, featuring fight scenes that rival anything produced by a big-budget Hollywood action movie. Boyka dismantles opponents with spinning kick combinations, knees, and blisteringly fast striking sequences, leaving audiences breathless. That's just Scott Adkins being Scott Adkins. He had supporting roles in X-Men Origins, Wolverine, Doctor Strange, and several major productions, but Hollywood never placed him at the center of a mainstream franchise. His case is comparable to Scottie Pippen in the NBA, one of the most talented figures of his entire generation, yet always standing in someone else's shadow. The difference is that Pippen won 6 championships. Adkins is still waiting for his big break. Number 9. Don the Dragon Wilson. We continue with a man many consider the greatest kickboxer America has ever produced, and yet, somehow, he spent most of his career starring in direct-to-video action films. With a professional record of 72 wins, 5 losses, and 2 draws, including 47 knockouts, Don the Dragon Wilson captured 11 world kickboxing titles across 4 different weight classes. The star rating system, one of the major references for American professional kickboxing, officially described him as perhaps the greatest kickboxer in US history. Not one of the best. The best. His battles against champions such as Dennis Alexio, Maurice Smith, and Branko Cikatic are considered classics of the sport. In 2015, he was inducted into the International Sports Hall of Fame, cementing a competitive legacy that few fighters in any era can match. And in Hollywood, ironically, it was Chuck Norris, a regular spectator at his fights, who encouraged him to give acting a shot. Wilson moved to Los Angeles in 1985 and eventually starred in more than 30 action films, with the Blood Fist franchise becoming his most recognizable work. Movies that went straight to video stores instead of movie theaters. The problem was never talent, it was timing. Wilson arrived just as stars like Steven Seagal, Jean-Claude Van Damme, and other action icons were dominating the mainstream market. Despite possessing a real-world resume that surpassed most action actors of his generation, he never landed the breakout role that could elevate him to the next level. Yet inside the ring, his accomplishments spoke for themselves. World titles, multiple weight divisions, decades of elite competition. And when it came to American kickboxing, nobody did what Don the Dragon Wilson did. Nobody. Number 8. Cynthia Rothrock. This may be the most unfair story on this entire list. For years, Cynthia Rothrock was one of the most complete martial artists in the world. A 5-time world champion in forms and weapons, she earned black belts in Tang Soo Do, Taekwondo, Eagle Claw, Wushu, Northern Shaolin, and Pai Lum. We're not talking about an actress who took a few karate lessons for a movie. We're talking about a world-class elite competitor. And what happened to her career says a lot about how Hollywood treated women in action films during the 80s and 90s. In Hong Kong, Cynthia Rothrock was an absolute star. Asian film studios recognized her genuine talent and cast her in leading roles where her martial arts skills were the main attraction. Films like Yes, Madam, alongside Michelle Yeoh, turned her into a phenomenon across Asia. But when she returned to the United States, Hollywood had no idea what to do with her. They placed her in low-budget productions, gave her supporting roles when she deserved leading ones, and never built the franchise her talent warranted. While Seagal became the standard of American action cinema, Rothrock was technically superior, yet she never got her own above the law. In films like China O'Brien, Cynthia Rothrock showed exactly why many fans consider her the queen of female action cinema. In Asia, they treated her like the star she was. In Hollywood, they ignored her. Number 7. Philip Rhee. Some actors wait for Hollywood to give them an opportunity. Others see that Hollywood isn't going to give them one and simply create their own. Philip Rhee belonged to the second group. This martial arts legend began training in Taekwondo at just 4 years old. Over time, he earned a 6th-degree black belt in Taekwondo, a 5th-degree black belt in Hapkido, and also developed extensive training in Wing Chun, Kendo, and boxing. In 1980, he was part of the American team that faced the powerful South Korean national team in an international tournament. The experience was intense, emotional, and filled with national pride. It would eventually become the foundation for his most famous film. But when he arrived in Hollywood, he encountered a very different reality. There were virtually no leading roles for Asian American actors. Instead of waiting for someone to open a door, he founded his own production company and wrote, produced, and starred in Best of the Best in 1989, a worldwide cult classic that went on to generate 3 sequels. The final scene, where his character Tommy Lee faces the Korean champion, remains one of the most emotional moments in 90s action cinema. It worked because Rhee wasn't just acting. He was a martial artist who genuinely understood the code of honor the film was built around. But the general public still doesn't know his name, and that is one of the greatest injustices of all. Number 6. Tony Jaa. Before Tony Jaa, Muay Thai in movies was mostly decorative. After Tony Jaa, the world realized that Thailand's national martial art was one of the most devastating and visually spectacular fighting systems on the planet. But Hollywood, true to form, had no idea what to do with that level of talent. Tony Jaa grew up in a farming family in Surin Province, Thailand, inspired by the films of Jackie Chan and Bruce Lee. From an early age, he trained in Muay Thai, Muay Boran, Krabi Krabong, and Taekwondo. His athleticism and acrobatic abilities eventually led him to work as a stuntman before landing the role that changed everything. Ong Bak, in 2003, was an explosion. No wires, no CGI, no camera tricks. Just Tony Jaa delivering elbows, knees, and kicks with a level of violence and authenticity that Hollywood had spent years trying and failing to replicate. Almost overnight, audiences around the world realized that Muay Thai was not only spectacular to watch, but also one of the most devastating combat systems ever created. The entire world wanted to know who this man was and where he had come from. But Hollywood never truly capitalized on his potential. In Furious 7, he was used as a secondary villain with only a handful of action scenes, despite deserving a project built entirely around the skills that made him unique. In Asia, he was a legend. In Hollywood, he became yet another wasted opportunity. Number 5. Iko Uwais. If Tony Jaa introduced the world to Muay Thai, Iko Uwais introduced the world to Indonesian silat, and he did it in a way that permanently changed what action cinema was capable of delivering. Uwais was working for a telecommunications company in Jakarta when director Gareth Evans discovered him in a silat demonstration video and convinced him to star in Merantau in 2009. 3 years later, The Raid Redemption exploded onto the International Film Festival circuit, with critics hailing it as one of the greatest action movies ever made. In The Raid, every strike has consequences, every movement serves a purpose, and the brutal efficiency of silat is put on full display. Hollywood quickly took notice, casting him in Star Wars, The Force Awakens, and Mile 22. But just as it had done with Tony Jaa, Hollywood never built a franchise around him. A man with that level of skill, charisma, and screen presence deserved more than supporting roles in someone else's franchise. Number 4. Donnie Yen. Donnie Yen spent decades being one of the greatest martial artists ever seen on screen, while much of the Western world barely knew who he was. Trained in wushu from the age of 11, Yen developed a hybrid fighting style that blended wushu, boxing, Muay Thai, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and MMA long before cross-training became fashionable. In Hong Kong, he was already a superstar. His fight scenes with Jet Li in Once Upon a Time in China 2 and Hero are widely regarded as some of the finest combat sequences ever filmed. Yet, in Hollywood, he remained largely unknown. Then, Ip Man arrived in 2008, and everything changed. Yen portrayed the Wing Chun master, who trained Bruce Lee with a combination of technical brilliance and dramatic depth that left both critics and audiences stunned. The famous scene in which Ip Man faces 10 Japanese karate practitioners alone is pure cinematic electricity. His hands move at a speed that seems impossible, yet every strike feels grounded, believable, and consequential. Then came Rogue One, where he played Chirrut Imwe, and Western audiences finally learned his name. But martial arts fans had known for more than 30 years that this man was operating on a completely different level and deserved leading roles long before Hollywood finally noticed. Number 3. Loren Avedon. Few names on this list are as unknown to the general public and as respected among true martial arts movie fans as Loren Avedon. Avedon is a Taekwondo master whose on-screen style combines spectacular high-flying kicks with a cinematic energy that very few performers of his era could match. His films No Retreat, No Surrender 3, and The King of the Kickboxers are cult classics that any serious fan of 90s martial arts cinema knows by heart. In The King of the Kickboxers, the final fight perfectly captures what Avedon could do when given room to perform. His high kicks display a level of technical precision that speaks of thousands of hours of real training, not special effects or favorable camera angles. Loren Avedon was a true training fanatic and expanded his arsenal far beyond the traditional Korean disciplines in which he became a grandmaster. To survive and stand out in the demanding Hong Kong film industry of the late 80s, Avedon dedicated himself to studying other combat systems in depth, including Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, Western boxing, and several additional martial arts disciplines. Unfortunately, he arrived at the wrong time. The low-budget action market was becoming increasingly saturated, and he never received the major studio vehicle his talent deserved. Today, Loren Avedon remains one of martial arts cinema's great underground legends, known and admired by those who truly understand the genre, but invisible to almost everyone else. Number 2. Keith Cooke. Fred Weintraub, the producer of Enter the Dragon, the film that launched Bruce Lee to worldwide stardom, once said something about Keith Cooke that should have changed his career forever. He said that Keith Cooke's feet are as fast as Bruce Lee's hands. Think about that for a second. Cooke is a 5-time grand champion of America's top karate tournaments. He was named Competitor of the Year by Black Belt magazine in 1983, 1985, and 1986. He was inducted into both the Black Belt Magazine Hall of Fame and the Inside Kung Fu Hall of Fame. One martial arts publication even ranked him among the 30 most influential martial arts masters of the last 3 decades. And what became his most famous role in Hollywood? Reptile in Mortal Kombat. A masked character, no face, no dialogue, no one even knew it was him. Cooke auditioned for the role of Liu Kang, the film's lead hero, but was cast as Reptile instead. His friend Robin Shou, with whom he had trained in China back in 1982, landed the starring role. Meanwhile, Cooke put on the mask and delivered some of the most memorable fight scenes in the entire movie, without most viewers ever learning his name. If there is one story on this list that perfectly captures what it means to be underrated in Hollywood, it is Keith Cooke's. The talent was there. The recognition never was. Number 1. Matthias Ues. Matthias joined Gold's Gym in Venice Beach, the temple of physique culture in the heart of the movie industry, and within weeks, a producer who had just lost Jean-Claude Van Damme for a film cast Matthias as his replacement. No acting experience, no fluent English, just an imposing physique and athletic ability that immediately stood out. That was the beginning, and in many ways, it was also the trap. Because at 6'5" and roughly 250 pounds of muscle, Hollywood only knew how to see him as one thing: the giant villain who gets defeated in the final act. Film after film, Hughes put in the work. He studied with some of the industry's top acting coaches, transformed his body for different roles, at one point losing nearly 40 pounds, and worked relentlessly on his accent, to the point that many Germans today are surprised to learn he is actually from Germany. And yet, the system kept him typecast. His finest moment came in Dark Angel, where he played a ruthless alien assassin opposite Dolph Lundgren. The climactic showdown between the two European giants remains pure 90s action cinema at its finest. Matthias performed his own stunts, and several of the film's explosive sequences reportedly came dangerously close to causing real injuries during production. Matias needed one major breakout hit to launch him into stardom. That opportunity never arrived. But the talent, the dedication, and the athleticism were always there. These fighters dedicated their lives to mastering martial arts that require years of sacrifice. Hollywood underestimated them. We didn't. And if you want to discover the most dangerous fighters in Hollywood history, the real martial artists whose skills were feared both on-screen and off-screen, be sure to check out the next video on your screen right now. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the content, support the channel with your valuable like, share the video, and subscribe for more martial arts and action cinema content. I'll see you in that video.